Thank you, listeners. It is time for Elko Live today, and in advance of this afternoon's regular Elko County Commission meeting, we're so pleased to welcome our Commissioner Delmo Andreozzi in studio. Delmo, what a pleasure to sit across from you.
It's great to be here, Lori. It's good to see you on this beautiful day we have here.
It is a beautiful day, and we were just chatting about our families and all the wonderful things that we often take for granted, you know, our good friendship and how long we've known each other and just the different things that really matter. And so then we looked over and said, oh, well, there's an agenda. We got to talk about that today, too. So,
Absolutely. But the other stuff that you're talking about, that's really, truly the fabric of life, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. That is what makes the world go round and makes people, well, at least this is what we always hope, that, you know, your intention's good and you're serving in an elected position. I mean, obviously, you are doing that, Telmo, for us and our citizens, because there are a lot of important decisions that are being made and resources that are being used on behalf of taxpayers.
Yeah, there's a lot that's going on. You know, I mean, I think that, and you know, I say this all the time, and I mean this. It's been an absolute honor and privilege to serve this, you know, our communities in Elko County in this way. And you know, it's not always easy. And if you're going to do, you know, if you want to try to do a good job, you know, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of research. It takes a lot of conversations with people, you know, to understand, you know, because, you know, at least in my opinion, I'm trying to make the best and most informed decision that I can, because you're making decisions all the time, and that maybe sometimes people not necessarily everybody agrees with, and then sometimes you're dealing with, and this isn't anything different than what I experienced in the city, is like zoning issues. Zoning issues people can be so passionate about it, because a zoning issue, you know, there's, in a sense, what ends up happening is you're picking a winner and a loser, and something, you know, you can't make everybody happy. So it's a you know, it can be challenging, but it is so rewarding, and it's so wonderful to do. And there's lots of opportunities for people to serve in so many capacities. There's so many boards that people can get on and become civic members, not only just members of the community, but also be civic members and give back to all these different boards.
You know, it's amazing you mentioned that, too. And that was a similar conversation to what our city vice mayor, Mandy Simons, had yesterday on the radio, because she's also encouraging lots of input. You know, there's a city park survey going on. They want lots of diverse ideas, lots of participation. They want people serving on these advisory boards and committees. And here we are, you know, talking with the grandson of immigrants direct from Italy. I mean, that's kind of what gave me perspective in starting this conversation with you, is imagine that.
Yeah. And when I think about that, Lori, you know, and so just for the benefit of everybody listening, and I'll try not to get too far off on a tangent, but my wife and I recently went to Italy. It's been a lifelong dream of mine, and so to go see the birthplace of my grandfather, and he came over when he was 14 years old, you know, so I didn't even let my kids trick or treat alone, let alone jump on a ship and go to an entirely different country. So, you know, and he worked for the railroad and you know, set up roots here, and it's this great. I met a cousin over there, and we talked about this family deconvergence. You know, we went separate ways, but in a sense now we've kind of come full circle and made contact with them again. So it was a tremendous thing for me to be a part of, and so when you think about, you know, that background, like in my family, it's in Elko County. I'm really only just the third generation here. That sounds like a lot, but it really isn't in the grand scheme of things.
And what a difference you've made in this community, of course, which is your home. So, so if we veer back onto the agenda, like I said, it's this afternoon, 1:30, the county commissioners will meet in regular session in the Nanini Administrative Building right there at 5th and Court. Among the top issues probably would be this county diesel tax. Should we talk about that?
Sure, of course. So this has some history to it. And gas taxes, fuel taxes in general are extremely complicated. I've always understood them a little bit, you know, because there were people that were, you know, that was their job to understand how those taxes flow. It's very complicated. There's a number of different gas taxes that come through the state and the county and then get distributed. But this one particular tax is it's an RTC, or Regional Transportation Commission tax, and that has a 9 cents gasoline option tax, And for many years, it was down around 4 cents, and then over time, it finally got bumped up to the full 9 cents. And that a lot of these gas taxes that in the county, that's what funds our roads department. So the other part of this diesel thing, several legislations ago, maybe 3 or 4 ago, there was a proposal out there for diesel indexing. This is actually supported by the trucking industry because part of this money would be used to create facilities for these over-the-road trucks to stop and rest and some of that other stuff. So it's got some wide-range support. But the indexing did not pass. And then shortly after that, the legislature added this 5 cents optional diesel tax. So, the one thing, the gas taxes have been extremely flat, and at the same time, the cost for providing that service has gone up exponentially. And really, when you look, the gas tax really is designed to be a user fee to pay for the infrastructure, right? And you can never have enough revenue to do all that needs to be done. But suffice it to say that, in terms of the, regional transportation, that the diesel tax wasn't paying anything into that RTC fund. And so, again, as things have continue to get tighter and tighter, and this enabling legislation that the legislature did several years ago has given counties the ability to raise this 5 cent tax on diesel so that they're contributing also to road maintenance in our areas. Again, it will never be enough. I mean, Elko County is so huge, and that I think that's sometimes hard for people to wrap their understand, but you're talking about 11 million acres. Over 70% of it is publicly owned, so we don't generate property tax or anything from the federal government. We get PILT, but that's not never ever guaranteed. So we just don't have the tax base. We don't have the population really to support the infrastructure. You think about how many miles of roads we have. We have like 17,000. I might be wrong. I think it's about 1,100 miles that we maintain with our road crew, and we certainly can't afford to pave every road, and there's lots of roads in the county that don't get any maintenance whatsoever. So, and again, the cost of providing this service continues to rise. So this seems to have some support. This is the second reading and possible adoption to levy that 5 cent tax. And like I said, if you own a gasoline vehicle, you've been paying 9 cents to this RTC fund for quite some time.
And it is important to note, though, there is some exception or exemption in there for folks who are using diesel on their ranch or farm properties. Yeah. So it's the dyed diesel piece. So, construction equipment, farm, mining equipment, all of that is exempted. It's really vehicles that are on the road, so diesel pickups, diesel trucks, those types of things. And so in the past, we could understand why if the majority of people in ranching drove diesel pickups, they might feel singled out, but that's just not really the case anymore, right, Delmo? Well, I don't think so. The more you look around, you see a lot of, everybody likes those, we love the power. If you have a diesel and you romp down on the throttle, you've got something with a lot of ponies behind you, and you just see more and more of that. And I didn't mention this, and it's really important for me to mention this. And one of the reasons that the fees have or the revenues have remained flat is not just because the population's obviously grown. You'd think that you'd have more revenue, but it's just not the case because we have more higher efficient vehicles. And we've also got hybrid vehicles, we've got electrical vehicles, and they don't pay anything through the fuel pump towards road maintenance. So, all of those things kind of erode that purchasing power. And so this, I don't know long term whether or not, I think the more efficient we get, the more if we continue to move towards that electrical thing, there's going to have to be some other funding mechanism in time. So, but this is what we have. It's been a traditional thing, and like I said, it's designed to be a user fee. So that it goes in, like I said, in our case, it entirely funds the county road department, all the gas taxes we have. And by contrast,
I remember this very well. It also funds a portion of the street department in the city of Elko, but the street department's fund and their capital fund actually is augmented by property tax, because the gas tax doesn't generate, it isn't enough to support the operating costs of the street department.
Commissioner Delmo Andreozzi, again, this is a second reading, so not a lot of input before. It does impact the trucking industry. Important to note that Federal Highway Administration funds highways, though.
Yeah, federal FHWA, Federal Highway Administration. So your I-80s, those are the ones that they typically fund, and that funding mechanism is a little bit complicated too. That'd be a good conversation to have with NDOT, because they got several pools of money that they utilize for their road projects. But it is a federal. It's very difficult. They get that funding on the federal highways, and a lot more regulations, a lot more, a lot of other issues with that too.
All right. So this is strictly a local tax that would be generated for local roadway needs.
Yes, and the distribution formula would be the same as it is with the gas tax.
All right. And I guess last question: any idea how much money it could generate?
I did see a projection, Lori, but I honestly can't remember what that number is off the top of my head. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I'm sure it'll be discussed today during the meeting. Yes. So thank you.
Sure.
I didn't mean to overlook, but apparently we're getting a visit from Congressman Mark Amodei at the top of the agenda today.
Yeah,
it's the August recess.
Yeah, and it's obviously good, I think, for any of our congressional delegation, if it's not by them or someone that represents them, just to come out and visit, so that we know what some of their priorities are, what they're working on, and we can convey some of our concerns, and they can hear that from a local level too, so that that hopefully we're all at least on the same page as far as what everybody's expectations are. Again, we may not always agree or disagree or whatever the case may be, but it's at least good to know where people stand.
So that's also on the agenda. Several ways to participate, either in person at the meeting at 1:30 today. You can also go online, elkocountynv.net, and join the meeting interactively. Just a little out of order on the agenda, but it does tie with a federal issue, and that would be the county's consideration, writing a letter, and there's concern about the perception of the Mustang roundup. I guess as many as 12 horses may have died in this recent effort to round up. The horses are roaming, overpopulating. There's a lot of damage to the range, and it doesn't do good for the horses.
Yeah, and I don't know how this popped up on the agenda, but I did read the article, and it kind of talks about some language that Congressman Dina Titus had mentioned in an article regarding that unfortunate situation that happened over there. And this is a very emotionally charged issue, and you're kind of hitting on the target. Is that unfortunately the population of these wild horses is so extreme. They're not being. I like to think about everything that's on the public land has to follow management. They're being managed, whether it's animals or ranchers or public use, whatever it is, it's managed in one form or another. And it appears to me that the wild horses are not managed at all. So they're the way their population grows is exponential, and they're actually have a lot of negative consequences on the land. And I would just say that there are some strong feelings on both sides of that issue. But I think that from my simple way of looking at things, I think that if they were appropriately managed on the front side, we wouldn't have to do this on the back side, and we may not have to have that result. So I think it's kind of a byproduct of how we're trying to. We're just not doing an effective job managing. They're just taking a small little portion of the horses off the range, and it's significantly overpopulated, as you know, and as you mentioned, Lori. So it's certainly a dicey subject. I don't think just here locally, but probably even more so on the national level.
There are about 10 western states impacted, but none as much as Nevada. We're the most arid state in the country as well, and this is affecting the balance and the survival, frankly, of a multitude of species going forward, I know. So that'll be interesting. I mean, whether or not a letter is effective in maybe just helping the Congresswoman understand, the remarks that she made and the significance, because it's like you said, an emotionally charged, politically charged conversation, Delmo. It's better to have sides that are concerned about both the welfare, the humane treatment of the horses, and the landscape. Because right now we've got these polarizing sides, and nothing's getting done. So,
and I do think, to your point, I've thought about that a lot. Is like, how can we help? How can we help educate and really show what's happening on the ground? Because I don't think any rational person, if they really saw what was happening, I could be wrong, but how do we help them see that picture and not be perceived as something other than what we really are? We really are proponents of multiple use on the public land, and it's really unfortunate, but it's overrun by this one species only because it's not effectively managed.
Right, and it's very unfair to target an industry which is really, family ranching for the most part, when those numbers are also diminishing, and their prospects are bleak, and now they're facing this type of criticism, and they're not saying that the horses are competing with the cattle. That's just being used politically, unfortunately. Yeah. So it's just about the condition of the horses and the range. So that'll be at least up for discussion, and County Commission may, and if Curtis Moore, your Assistant County Manager and the Natural Resource Director, has any involvement in this, I'm sure it will be a well-thought letter, and it will be very well researched, and it will be considerate. So hopefully going forward.
Absolutely.
Right? At least having a seat at the table. Just above that, there will be a presentation, which I imagine might be similar to the one that Great Basin College President Joyce Helens made to the Elko City Council recently. Interesting timing. It is summer, and so faculty and staff are not really back on campus yet. I think when these discussions started about merging GBC with UNR, Commissioner, there was a lot of talk about involving the community and having town hall meetings and public meetings. This is a presentation on your agenda today.
Yeah, it is, and I don't have any information on here. It's a non-action item, so I'm definitely interested to see what happens here too. I think I guess I don't have my it's not my wheelhouse to educate people. It's not anything that I'm fully understand, but I understand the importance of it, and what's gone in behind having Elko not having a college to having a college, and really having a tremendous footprint and educating people, because it's about access to higher education, right? So especially when I think about this rural area and how that provides secondary educational opportunities for people that may be, I guess the word would be homebound or site-bound or something like, because they have a family or whatever the case may be. These are things that I personally in my own family have benefited from. I have personally taken classes at the college that have always elevated my intellect and helped me with my reasoning. They've been great classes, even though I don't personally have a college degree. I still took classes. I've learned a lot. Theater classes too. I got a great bang out of that. But my wife has 2 degrees from our college here, a nursing degree too, and our son has a college degree here, surveying college degree, and our girls went here for a period of time. They didn't finish here, but it can be a great leaping off point. So I don't fully get or understand what's best or in that realm or what's on deck, but I think it's a vital piece of infrastructure that we have here and have access to for people for a variety of different reasons.
And I'm sure that if we were to hear from President Brian Sandoval of UNR, that a lot of questions could be answered, because I'm not sure that anybody is denying that a merger, collaboration, some sort of close-knit relationship going forward. I mean, we've already seen the evidence of the financial savings of the college and doing some administrative tasks and security, that kind of thing. But I'm not sure that, people are really understand. I mean, because there are questions about tuition, faculty, how they'd be absorbed or would operate as a college within a college, which is the way it's being described. And so I think if Brian Sandoval could also weigh in on this, but he has not come to Elko to make these presentations other than at an NNC meeting, but when he said he would be back to talk about the proposed merger. So
yeah, again, this is one of those things that certainly I can't say this enough. I don't have the expertise to know what the best thing to do is here, but be that as it may, it's important to have these conversations on it doesn't matter what you're doing, the wheels of government. This is something that, I learned a long, long time ago, early in my career. The wheels of government turn very, very slow, and they do that by design. They do that, so that, sometimes people get really frustrated at how slow the government works, but that's actually by design. It's supposed to function very slowly and, have lots of opportunity for public input, whether it's a public meeting or whatever the case may be, so that you're helping shape those policy decisions. So, that's one of these things where I guess, I wish that we had a little bit more information so that we could be a little bit, more understanding about what's going on.
I'm sure commissioners will have a chance to ask those questions. And again, it's President Joyce Helens has announced her retirement, and that'll be about a year from now. So there are questions about that. And, how would the merger? Would we have a new president, or would we simply be absorbed by UNR?
Those are all logical questions,
exactly,
right?
So.
And I think that it's important too. I think it's important for us to have some level of representation here, because no matter how good intention the former governor is, I don't know that he knows entirely, what we need here, right? So I think it's important to have some type of local voice, so that if that model is that's the model that because we have seen this over and over again, what works there may or may not necessarily work here. Right? Nevada is so diverse, and nobody knows our local area better than the local people. It's just that simple.
And it doesn't matter what corner of the state you live in. So,
that's true.
Yes. So that'll be, again, it's not an action item. It'll be a presentation, likely similar to what the city council, but commissioners will have a chance to ask about the future of Great Basin College as well going forward. And let's see, I want to make sure that we're getting to the topics you were hoping to. I know I highlighted a couple things that may seem obvious, Delmo, but there may be other issues you're hoping to get to.
I'll just bounce off a couple of really quick ones here, Lori. I know the governor's working on a workforce development board. They're looking for a local representative, a local elected official to serve on that. I don't know how that one's going to shake out. I don't know what type of a commitment that is. These state boards can be very, very challenging. Again, it's good. It's a great opportunity for us to have a seat at the table. I don't know if an elected official is the right person to be there, but that's on the agenda. And then this other one, an agreement with the city of Elko for traffic signal maintenance. This agreement goes back way back when I was actually there. So essentially, this is probably something else that people don't know. So even though you're on a state route and there's a traffic signal there, the Nevada Department of Transportation is really good about relinquishing the responsibility of that traffic signal to the local jurisdiction. And so the city of Elko, and they're complex, they're not like what they used to be. They're very complex, they're high liability systems. And, the city of Elko has a lot more traffic signals. Elko County has two. We have one in Jackpot, and we have the one out at the intersection there, Spring Creek Parkway. And so we really, again, like it says, it takes a lot of expertise. And so this interlocal, or this partnership that we have with the city of Elko, we can utilize their expertise and work with them to troubleshoot and repair a traffic signal. They require a lot of work, and like I said, they're not like they used to be. I remember old Paul Wood, when he was a police officer, when traffic signal broke, wasn't functioning, he'd just take a rubber mallet and just beat the traffic box until it started working again. But that is not the case these days. They are highly sophisticated units, you know.
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned Paul
Paul.
Wood.
Yeah, he was a great man.
Wasn't he, though?
He was a gem.
Yeah, I was brand new working here, and I would work, I'll make this short, but it's holidays, you know, because I didn't have family, and so everybody else you'd have to have an operator here, so somebody would need to be on the board, so I would say everybody that has family, go work on Christmas. You know, I would work on Christmas or Thanksgiving or whatever it was, Delmo, so they could spend time with their families. And Paul would he'd be working, and so he'd stop off and bring me a candy bar or just chat and just say hi. And yeah, so that's how I got to know Paul.
He was
a
great man.
Yeah.
He had a belly dancer on his tattoo on his arm, and he was an old iron worker, and I got to work with some wonderful characters, and he was one of them.
Oh, I'm so glad that we got to mention Paul Wood's name and memory, because it takes a village, and he was definitely a part of that. Let's see. Well, before I digressed, and I just had a birthday yesterday, so forgive me.
Happy birthday!
Well, I say that because I'm just getting older, so it's like I get to be afforded to digress, right?
I might have to sing you happy birthday before I leave the station.
That is so sweet. That would be the sweetest thing ever, Delmo.
We got a bunch of grant
yes, I was going to bring that
here.
up. Yes.
Yeah, there's a number of them on here.
A lot of federal grants, a lot of federal money in there. Yeah.
So, you know, the one that we have coming, this has been a long grant with, it's a pass-through grant with NDOT, and that's how we run the transportation system that we have. And so, you know, it buys a lot of the infrastructure. It's a really good grant. It's got a match, but, you know, we've done a good job. Even though our match is a little bit high, you know, the team always is looking for other leveraging grant matches to reduce the burden on the county, and the transportation system does provide a vital function to people that don't have the means to get from one place to other, especially some of our aging population. And I mean, they provide a great service to
Talking about Get My Ride.
Get My Ride. So that's one on there for sure. And then there was something with the Department of Emergency Management. There's some money we've got going on there, just purchasing some equipment, and those are pretty common every year. And then let's see, there was another one I was kind of thinking about. What was that? I remember what I was going to say. So the child advocacy.
Yes.
We have done. I say we, like I've had anything to do with it. Our team has done an amazing job of finding grants that they have just done a tremendous amount of work to get some funding up for that. I did get to go on a tour of that facility, and I say this, Lori, it is the most depressing building we've ever had to build. It's the saddest thing we've ever had to build, right? I mean, nobody wants to have to build that facility. I wish we didn't need it, but we do, unfortunately. Everything, the design to the construction, I mean, it's getting very close. I think they're going to be working on landscaping here soon. And but it's very thoughtful in the way, and I know there's going to be a ribbon cutting at some point, and I don't know if you've had a chance to see it, but it really is nice because it's very light and airy on the inside. There's lots of natural light that comes into the building, and yet it's still very secure. And again, it's a piece of a building that I wish we didn't have to build. It's very sad, but it's been done. The team has done an incredible job of creating a coalition of people to serve this victimized group, this population, and it just really touches me. It touches my heart about seeing all the people and all the effort that's come and rallied behind this service that we'll be able to provide in a multi-county scenario.
Well, thanks, Commissioner. That's the only way that we'll bring about change is with that kind of care and collaboration. Yeah. So, yes, absolutely. Well, thank you, as always, for spending time as you do with us, and we look forward to it. Is there any announcement that you?
No. I would tell you this though, Lori, is that one thing I did want to mention is NACO, the Nevada Association of Counties, is coming to Elko County this year, and so that's going to be September 26th through the 28th. So we'll have representatives of all 17 counties here for a great great session. I've always enjoyed those conferences, and this is we travel around the state when we do these conferences. It's great to host this up here because I think it's important, again, for people to have a better understanding of who we are and what we do. I anticipate we'll have some state level folks here as well. So, just roll out the red carpet for them.